If you went back to just do kind of a personal rephotographic project, the exteriors and things like that would be different. If you went back and just had a do-over, what would happen?
Well, I think my 22-year-old self doing that project was kind of just much freer in terms of feeling very, very comfortable in the neighborhood and learning from people. And my 73-year-old self now would probably have a totally different experience.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more cautious. I don't know. It's hard to know. And how I would react to the changes that are going on there. From what I've seen, they've knocked down Victorians and they've built these modern houses, and that actually kind of feels sad to me in a way.
Yeah, when I shoot there now,
the footprint has changed.
Yeah, and I feel like, I guess the obvious story is that the people who live there are not in control of what's happening.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
To the extent that, what I can see in West Oakland now may not be there, 3 years from now.
Right.
What is there now that actually points at something redeeming, about this potential loss? And I'm finding that I can't take pictures about that. I have to have conversations about it.
Yeah.
And then maybe the conversations will lead me to, some pictures.
Change happens. But I do wonder, what's happened to the people that I photographed and where have they gone? And, in some way that maybe is the exciting part of doing the book, that some of those people may discover themselves, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, recognize their street. That plays to the wonderful part of photography. It freezes time.
So can you show me one of your upcoming books? It is a time capsule, but you curated these pictures very recently.
Yes, sir.
Are there two different stories you think to tell? The 22-year-old Ken and who you are now, and if they're not the same story, what do you think? What do you think the important difference is?
The people that I photographed in the 70s, there was a certain very deep community spirit. It was really quite wonderful. I started photographing, I think it was a year after BART opened. And so there had been, before I even got there had been a huge struggle about BART and the post office, taking huge swaths of homes of people who had lived there for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And I came in after that. But I think there was a really deep sense of community. Mm-hmm. Many had hard lives, jobs were disappearing, jobs were changing, people eking out a living, but it was really incredible spirit of people. I think that's really changed now, and I think when you begin to have a community that begins to be gentrified, it throws in a whole different world.
When I'm there now, the number one thought I have is whatever I'm looking at, it might not be there, 1 year from now.
Yeah.
And I look at all of it as if it's my last chance,
Yeah.
But then there's also the question of whether the things that I'm capturing that way will have a different meaning, later.
But one thing about West Oakland, it was always in some way disrupted. If you think about, when I photographed, there were no grocery stores there. There was no safe, it was a food desert. And I think it's probably still a food desert to some extent.
I have it's not a theory, it's a suspicion, but I wonder whether, as photographers, we can self-publish now more readily, mm-hmm. Than in the past.
Mm-hmm. And now there's so much media, it's 24/7.
Yeah.
And something might just be a blip and it goes on. So I don't think of my books as kind of changing, mm-hmm. in the sense of really having big change, I think of them really just as a witness and a record, and a historical record.
Yeah.
And people need to see it. And someone may go back and wonder what it was like in the 70s.
Right.
And how do you find that out? Where do you go? And to me, that's what a book's there. It can be a photographer like yourself wanting to be inspired and picking up a book and looking, how does the photographer sequence the pictures, and why did they put this picture first and that picture second, and why does this photographer think this is a really good picture? And I don't like that picture. Why did he include that? I mean, you know, there's kind of a conversation between the viewer of a book and the photographer. Even though I'm not there, there's kind of a conversation that you're having with me, even though I'm unseen. They're markers, they're records of people's lives and what has happened, and it also allows us to look at this and wonder how things have changed, good, bad, or ugly. When I turned to photography and I identified as a photographer, my interest was in seeing the world and documenting it, and it also was a lot of anger at what was happening in this country. And all my work is in this country, which is, I think, unusual for a lot of photographers. They always want to go elsewhere. It's a lot easier to go anywhere in the world.
Someplace exotic.
And both exotic and see the suffering and the conditions of other people. And it's very hard to look in your own backyard. And I think my anger at what was happening in this country has been the through narrative of my work, and has driven me to do all these different projects of seeing people's worlds and trying to understand it and share it and revealing the things that are unseen. I think about the work in West Oakland is an example. You know, these are the hands that built America.
Yeah.
These are the people that built America. And if you look at the course of my lifetime of making photographs, it's all about these people that, without these people, including the undocumented immigrants I photographed, and the farm workers, and the folks in Mississippi, and so forth and so on, this country would not be here. But somehow they're unseen. And I think part of my legacy, I hope, will be there's a record of these places and these communities, and to show, you know, the importance of the average person, the working person.
I just want to thank you for the influence that you've had on me.
Sure, thank you.
As a practitioner and a role model, but mostly just your generosity of spirit, you know, which is, I know it's coming from the same place that your larger caring about people comes from. So I'm really happy to have this one-on-one with you, and I hope there's a lot more to come.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.